Bonjour à toutes et tous, vous écoutez First Print, votre podcast comics préféré pour une nouvelle émission du format Super Friends. C'est dans ce podcast qu'on va à la rencontre des personnes qui font vivre la pop culture et la culture comics par leur travail. Et aujourd'hui, on est en face d'une équipe créative de choc, puisqu'on aura le plaisir dans ce podcast d'accueillir Vaughan Niko Henrichon pour parler de la sortie de leur nouvel album Spectateurs, disponible chez Urban Comics. Pardon, je m'enraille un peu, c'est l'émotion qui parle. Juste après, donc le générique va se lancer, puis on va se retrouver en anglais avec Vaughan et Niko qui sont en tournée, qui sont venus donc faire une tournée de dédicaces. On enregistre à Toulouse et on remercie fortement la Cave Poésie de nous accueillir et le Comptoir du Rêve Comics d'avoir organisé cette séance de podcast. Hello guys, it is so nice to have you here in our podcast. So Vaughan, Niko, I'm really glad to have such talented writers and artists in our podcast. How are you? You can start yeah. Niko.
Very good. Thank you for having us. Merci de nous accueillir.
Because you know French words, Niko.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Off. It doesn't matter now. I'm speaking English.
Yeah,
today.
It's not the case of the person sitting just next to you. Vaughan, you don't know any word of French.
No, un peu. But please forgive me for my inexcusable lack of French. And thank you for allowing me to be a super friend today. I would like to be Gleek, the Wonder Twins monkey, for this edition of Super Friends. Thank you.
Merci. You. Thank you. So this is the first time that we actually speak together in this podcast. So just very briefly, could you just introduce yourself, just in case there are some people that might not know who you are? Let's start with you, Vaughan.
Sure. My name's Vaughan. I'm a comic book writer. I've written books including Saga and Why the Last Man and Runaways, and most recently Spectators with my old friend Niko, who we last collaborated with on Pride of Baghdad 20 long years ago.
And I decided this year that I'm a veteran comic artist, and I'm Niko Henrichon. Say it properly. The English people might say Henrichon, but
that's actually what I just did.
Henrichon is it's fine, but Henrichon is the proper way. But anyway, I'm also working in comics for more than 25 years and work on many comic books from America, Marvel, DC, but also a little bit. They say I have one foot on one continent and the other foot on the other, and so that's what I'm trying to do. Working on both fields and doing comics on both sides, French comics, American comics, jump from one to the other.
Okay, so my first question will be very basic. So you say that you worked together 20 years ago on Pride of Baghdad. What took you so long to get back together on a new project?
That's not on me. Tell us, Vaughan.
I think that's both of us. I think I've been looking ever since to work with Niko again, but I think I knew I had such a good time working on Pride of Baghdad that I was like, I would like to do another graphic novel, not a mini series, not an ongoing series, but something meant to be read in one sitting, one giant work. And I wanted it to be longer than Pride of Baghdad. And just the economic reality was such that it's very hard to give an artist the funding that they deserve to work for potentially 3 years on something. And so it wasn't until this generous offer from Substack, this website came to us that I was like, oh, this could be an opportunity to finally reunite the two of us.
But you had written the outline for the project before or after Substack came along?
No, this is an idea that I'd had for a very long time, a loose idea, I'd say, that I knew I wanted to do a romance between two intangible characters so they would only be able to fall in love through their words and their ideas. And so that was the germ of the idea, but a little more than that until I was like, oh, this might be right. And it was really my wife who had met Niko years ago who told me, you dummy, this idea that you've been thinking about forever, the artist has been here all along to do it, and it's Niko. And I was like, oh, of course.
Can you tell us a little bit about the story of how you spoke about the project to Niko? How you
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Niko, because this is my it's a very long time ago.
We can have your point of view, then yours, and then confront.
Hopefully, they will be similar, but we never know.
I remember reaching out to Niko, and I was like, "We have this opportunity to do this long form story, and maybe we would do it a few pages at a time." But I said, "Look, the basic story is about these two ghosts from different eras who end up haunting the same terrifying future." And they are truly ghosts. They do not get to interact with our world or do anything. They are intangible. They are already dead. And I remember Niko's concern maybe at the front was like, what will the stakes be if they're already dead and nothing can happen to them and they can't affect their world? But I think rather than being terrified by that, it was exciting. Niko sounded pumped about it. He was like, this is an interesting challenge. Tell me more.
It sounds about right. I mean, it's a perfect summary. I couldn't say I have no other memories that would add anything to that, I guess. So,
but you could add what really was the most striking element of that project that really got you into it
before really starting the work on it. Yeah, the fact they were both ghosts that basically couldn't die. I wouldn't say worried me, but I was I felt it was a bit destabilizing. I didn't know where this was going, but then again, I had the chance to do Pride of Baghdad many years earlier, and I was also reading Brian's work from the past years, so I was not worried about his competency of doing valuable comics. So I was in total confidence, even when starting the project. Didn't know exactly where this was going. I knew I was in a good trip.
But just as we mentioned earlier before the podcast, Brian said there are not that many artists who are okay with nudity. And to dive into the thematics of the book, it's really pretty violent. It's pretty, I would call it nihilistic to some extent. And there's a lot of graphic sex scenes. Was that something that maybe...
That's surprising to me.
Yeah?
Actually. Yeah. I thought for a story by Brian K. Vaughan, I mean, it's just like, I mean, a story by Alan Moore, by Garth Ennis, by these guys. I mean, it's just that's the sweetest story you can get in the market right now. So why would you care about this detail or this? I mean, it's all about the story for me. That's what I keep repeating people. Even the editors that wants to work with me, it's just a story. Give me a good story, and I'm on it. That's it. That's all.
But was it something that was present from the beginning? The fact that you would do an adult comic book with actual graphic sex scenes? Because like Corentin said, it's not something you usually see in the American comic book scene.
Yes, I knew that was the point of the story, is that particularly being a father to children, I was taken aback by how much violence they were exposed to, even in children's stories early on. In cartoons and whatever, you could have graphic beheadings, executions, and it seemed to be that, yes, we had a real bottomless appetite for violence. And it was like, if we're going to tell a story for adults, then I want to be exactly as graphic with the sex as I am with the violence. And let's talk about why there's such a difference between our tolerance for the two.
And do you know why?
I guess this is why I wanted to write the book, is that I never want to have, here's the message that I'm trying to impart to you. I always write because, I have a question. This seems interesting. And I recognize the difference in myself. So I wanted to delve into it and let these two characters sort of duke it out and perhaps help us understand why there is such a difference.
And do you think you actually reached a conclusion at the end of the album? Like maybe, because to not spoil anything, but I think maybe the sex is depicted as more tender, obviously, than what happens actually surrounding violence, you know?
Yes, for sure. And, it's a part of the book and an anecdote I've brought up a lot, but it did find, I found it to be illuminating that I had a friend who showed Terminator to his teenage daughter and was like, this is a science fiction classic. We have to watch this together. And they sat down, they watched 4/5 of the movie. And then my friend was like, ooh, I forgot about this sex scene at the end. I'm going to fast forward past this. And my friend's wife came in and was like, hold on, you just showed our daughter almost 2 hours of nonstop violence against human beings, people getting, scalpels to the eye and shotgun blast to the chest. And then we get to this moment that is not gratuitous. It is the origin of the movie where Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese make the child that's going to make this story possible. And it's a beautiful, tender moment of lovemaking between consensual adults. And you tell our daughter, this is taboo and forbidden. Like, what message does this send? And then, so I recognize that was very similar to my viewing of a lot of movies as a kid. So I knew in America, yes, this is how we process something, that we're very comfortable with violence. And it leads to this culture of, we like to watch American football together, and we like to see people get hurt together. And we also love sex. We do. We watch a lot of it, but we watch it very privately and very shamefully. And so I was like, well, this is interesting. Why was I born into this world? And how does it affect not just what we watch, but what we do?
Yeah. And a question for Niko. The fact that you don't want to judge the characters, we can feel that, but how do you approach that in a graphical way? I mean, how do you make a neutral, so to speak, story about sex and violence and the apocalypse?
It's a delicate balance, I must admit. First, I had to find the proper way to display sexual relations in a way that's not overly spectacularly pornographic. Because what you have on the internet, a friend told me, you can find very, very spicy images. Of people, yes.
Is that right?
I assure you.
You can find
it
that
is
on
very,
the internet?
Send me a link, will you?
I'll let you talk to my friend who knows all about that. It's I guess you can, I'm trying to display the sex scenes as maybe they can be a bit acrobatic sometimes. I guess people are doing that sometimes, and but it's a delicate balance, I must say. In the pornographic movies, it's clearly made for the camera. It's like we see the camera is really the main focus of the angles and things like that. So you what I was trying to do is just showing people making love, and that's the story is about. But it's a delicate balance.
Had to invent some new technologies, because we didn't say that, but the book is actually set in the far future, close future.
Yes.
And there's not only just sex toys, but a lot of futuristic technology.
Yeah. Well, all these things there's so many reference to everything. I mean, from Star Wars to Blade Runner. In this case, we didn't want to go in a Blade Runner way. But there's so many ways to display the future. In this very case, I think in this special case, I think there's an element that really plays well. It's an idea from Brian, actually. It's the now famous square-shaped cars that are floating and that are kind of transparent. And I use that a lot on the book to kind of display this new way of transport that is completely that works in a kind of magical way. And this helped me a lot to put kind of a special tone to this futuristic world.
Yeah, and in this future, we can see themes, political themes also. There are mass shooters. There's the troll meme culture. That's it's a real issue in contemporary life. Sorry, and it pretty much like anticipates what issues we could have nowadays as a society. Which degree did you want to go into politics for this one without sounding, because like you said, it was mostly about the romance and the conversation between the two characters, but it's kind of overflowed in the end on the whole, apocalypse might be coming. So where did you put the limit on that?
Yeah, I mean, politically, I guess I love to write about politics and think about it. And I think things like Saga and We Stand on Guard are explicitly political. But
is there politics in Saga? Really?
It's just aliens. It's just
Oh, I
aliens.
know. I know. It's
Doesn't-
wings and horns.
yeah.
There's a
Okay,
bunch of
yeah,
made up
okay.
goofy stuff.
Yeah, I was afraid. Okay.
Yeah, no, I for this one though, I recognize political violence more than ever is a reality. But the kind of violence that I'm most terrified of is there was this Las Vegas shooting. Now it's got to be, almost a decade ago. And the worst mass shooting on American soil. And it haunts me that to this day, there's still no motive ascribed to the shooter. That is, by all accounts, he just wanted to rack up a body count. And that's, I guess, the kind of nihilistic violence that I want to pursue. That when you have this culture of violence, that violence is entertainment, violence is the solution to problems, that I felt I was most concerned about. What if you have a wave of apolitical violence, that it is just violence for violence sake? So I wasn't trying to hedge my bets or to say, and I think if we had made it a conservative shooter or a liberal shooter, I think it would have narrowed the focus of this, where I'm like, these guys really don't give a fuck about politics. They just want to treat this as a game. And yeah, it's a parable, it's a metaphor, and this idea of guys who are bathed in meme culture seemed like an interesting direction, but it was not something I anticipated becoming a reality within the last year. It was like guys writing messages on their bullet casings and saying stuff that they picked up on 4chan and websites. I didn't see. I certainly wasn't anticipating that becoming a reality.
So how do you feel when reality comes back at you like that?
Yeah, it makes me sick to my stomach. It's we stand on guard as this about America invading Canada was not me being prescient and thinking. It was like, oh, I'd like to keep talking about what Niko and I talked about in Pride of Baghdad, about what's it like for a country to invade and illegally occupy someone else. So it was like, this is a parable to have neighbors to have it happen. I thought it would hit it closer to home. So I don't like when these wacky fiction that I comes up with. My wife is like, can you write about something nice happening? So maybe that will come true. But so it goes.
Yeah, I hope this doesn't come true. The things in
Yes,
Spectateurs,
fingers
I hope
crossed.
they don't
Yes,
come
I'm
true.
hoping to, exercise all these demons out of my head so it doesn't happen. I'm not trying to summon it into reality. I promise.
And Niko, speaking about the violence, there's a very bleak introduction scene with a mass shooting in a theater, and we live in a world where there's some kind of cultural violence. Like violence can be cool, even sometimes in very serious topics. This scene is not cool at all. So how do you make it not cool?
It's also a delicate balance, and the trouble thing is that I enjoy the aesthetical of some violent movies like Tarantino, all the Sergio Leone. He kind of makes violence. These movie makers kind of make violence like an opera, and it's very poetic in a way and choreographic. So. In this case, yeah, we were going for something more brutal and gritty, and that's what I tried to do. But I guess I just as I'm reading the story and feeling what's the best way to portray these events in this angle. I guess it almost goes by itself. I would say I don't think about it too much.
But like when you have to draw the end of the graphic novel, which again I'm not going to spoil, don't you get? I mean the feels, because you didn't write the words, you didn't write the end of the story. You discovered it when you received the script, and you have to see like for yourself that Brian has in fact previewed the future once before. So how does it feel to make these stories be a specific story in the context that it's been published? To pictures,
I see. Yeah, I think I see what you mean. In this case, clearly, this book has been done in the context where we're once again thinking about maybe a nuclear war, maybe a nuclear strike somewhere, somehow. Maybe a mistake could trigger something. Maybe just a misunderstanding. It's a bit frightening, and it's a good occasion for both of us to kind of dispel these horrific thinkings and to put it on the paper, so we don't have to think about it so much. I remember being in New York City, like on Park Avenue, we have all these giant buildings, like hundreds and hundreds of floors, and I'm thinking, imagine that this could be raised forever. I mean, it's just an insane thinking. It's almost unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's the thing that you said earlier about the fact that in American culture you can assist a violent event, and it's not going to be as shocking as when you see a woman topless. But in the same sense, spectators that we are reading the comics, and in the same way, in our modern life, crazy shit keeps happening and happening and happening. And at the end of the album, I get the feeling that that the character watching through the window and saying, "I don't want to miss the show." Basically, I don't remember the exact phrasing. And it felt also like, to me, that we assist powerless to this series of fucking crazy things. And every day is different. Every day is weirder than the previous. I wanted to have your opinion on that. Like, is this also a comics that speak about the depowered people watching the world burning and not being able to do anything other than falling in love?
Yeah, no, that is a fair assessment. And it's been terrifying to see my children who, I mean, you talk about pornography and our fears about our children being exposed to that. But in the most recent wave of political violence, my kids were like, "Oh yeah, we were just scrolling and we saw it." And I was like, there used to be, I mean, whole like debates when I was young about what if we saw someday in the future if executions were televised and we might actually have to see these acts of violence. And now it is so commonplace that children can just be exposed to this. So yes, it is the helplessness that we can't look away from it, in addition to the helplessness of we feel powerless. We can't stop what is happening. And yes, that is certainly, and to put two intangible specters who are fully incapable of doing it is, I think they're very much audience surrogates for us. That all we can do is watch or not watch, and sometimes even the option to not watch seems not there for us.
And just a moment ago, Nico, you mentioned Tarantino and Sergio Leone. Did you have any, I don't know, other than Terminator, any other like big references you wanted to inspire yourself from? I was thinking about the Richard Linklater movies when we talked about earlier. Did you, because you did not want to go to Blade Runner, but maybe you had other prospects in mind for reference?
In my case, the most important reference was obviously New York City. Because we wanted to keep some landmarks, important architecture that we think could be still there in the next 100 years. But otherwise,
because the reason I'm asking is in the book there are actually a lot of discourse over cinema. Like we got the characters who discover the cinema with the kinetoscope. They're watching movies, and this also feels like a kind of a love letter to fiction in general, but also
it's a bit of an educational cinema history.
Exactly. It's hard because I want to do work that is most inspired by reality, when it feels like so many shows and films and comics are based on other shows and films and comics we watched. So I want to do something that feels original and inspired by life, but my life is deeply inspired by other people who've been inspired by these movies. So yeah, we wanted to do a movie that was, or a story that is about cinema and about the way we watch, but wasn't merely just referencing and discussing other movies. That it's a part of it, but we're hopefully saying something new.
On the work on colors also, Nico, I think one of the greatest achievement in the album is this world that's mainly black, white, and little shades of pale blue, and the ghosts which are in color. It gives for a great effect. How did you decide and compose this beautiful result?
When I started working on some designs and ideas, visual cues, that I always do that when I start working on a project. I just put on paper, sometimes on tablet, everything I have in mind with the direction it could go, and then I show it to my creative partner to discuss these things. It's easier to discuss when you have something to look at than to just discuss random ideas in the air. So I remember most of the times I do layouts, and I also add gray tones, not because the finality of it is gray tones, but just because it's easier. I don't have the time to color it, but I want to have a shape, more shapes and more ambience. So I put it in grayscale. And a lot of the pictures that I sent to Brian, I think he said, where some of these pictures sparked his interest, and we started discussing what about doing a partially black and white comics with parts in colors, and use the colors on this to display the ghost. Instead of doing the opposite, most ghost stories have
because
the
mostly,
ghost.
you would have the ghost in
Exactly
black and white and the wall in color. So
we're just doing the opposite in this. I think it was a great choice because it makes the reading easily. But when you think of it, it's not that obvious to do a story when some characters are alive and some are not in the same page, and they are both talking. They don't see each other. So having this easy to understand code color for every page, I think it was just an easy solution.
And I guess it's even more efficient also to spot where the characters that are important to the story are with this color scheme. Whereas if you had done like the full color book with just 2 gray spots on each page, it would like why should I care about these gray spots?
And there's some pretty. I remember some moments when a lot of people are talking at the same time, like when just after. I won't spoil anything very important, but at one time there's a fight in an underground place, and they discuss the ghosts are around, and people are also a lot of people are seeing the fights as real people alive, and other ghosts are also, and they all talk at the same time. So that makes for a confusing thing. But with this simple code color thing, it all went easy.
And in this kind of scene, do Brian actually write where are supposed to be the alive people and the ghost, or are you just putting without like a very precise script, but you just draw them like how it will work on the page?
It's kind of a logical thing because our ghosts can float pretty anywhere they want, so they can if they want to see the fight, they might just float above to have a better view. That's how I figured out. I don't remember Brian giving a proper way of having the setup of the ghost versus the
because
people,
you told me he was lazy with the scripts.
He was.
Thing is, I am lazy. It is, and all this color stuff you're talking about none of it was originated with me. It was all from discussion. And to say it's not just the two of us, that Phonographics, the code name of my letterer on Saga, and as well as this, he then came in with the addition of, we should have regular colored word balloons for our ghosts, but we shouldn't grayscale it too much for the living, or you'll feel like this dialogue doesn't count. It doesn't skip, but to just very subtly, by a few degrees, have it be slightly lighter. So you realize that this is what we're eavesdropping on. And it's all this extremely subtle work that these guys did that has such an effect on how you read the story.
Which gives me just the question about how your work relationship. How did it go when you were crafting the book on Substack? So it was just like on the basis like you would give him a script every week or every I don't know how often, and then you would just send you the pages. Because it was a marathon for you.
For sure.
A long one.
Yeah, it was a weird way to do this book, but it was nice because I did not write all 340 plus pages.
I guess
first I would do nice chunks so that Niko would have something to read ahead on to know where this exists in the rest of the story. And we kept it going. Then Niko would every week, usually a few days in advance, send some sort of beautiful thumbnails that I would usually just say, these are perfect, go with God. And ask questions. If there was something that I had confused him about in the script, we'd have time to fix it. But standard.
Very rarely.
It's I think we're both good that we like to have a lot of discussion at the beginning and then a lot of trust in between, where it's like, Niko trusts me to go write this script and I trust him to draw it. And this is not the Bible where you must have every line exactly. If you saw an opportunity to combine panels, to expand something, to change the where you put the quote unquote camera for this shot, it's always, his visual thinking is so much more advanced than mine, that it was just a very trusting relationship, I hope.
Yeah. It was a collaboration that that's why I often say that since I did Pride of Baghdad much earlier, and since I was also reading Brian's book, I accepted while starting on this book to work on it almost and discover the script almost as the reader with a little advance still. But I didn't know exactly where it was going. But I thought this was also a very cool way of working, because if I would ask Brian to give me from the start everything up to the final words, how this would go, I think this would also kind of maybe or maybe not kind of set him in stones for some ideas. And the cool thing about this project is that since I'm not sure where it's going, he could modify and jazz with it as much as he wanted, and that's the magic that I like. I'm also a big fan of jazz. That's a secondary comment, but this kind of I think in the place we are also in our creator's life, it's nice to have a bit of background, and we both did thousands of pages before, so it's nice also to have an experience when we can allow some improvisation and some things to happen, as long as we still keep the tempo.
Especially for this project, because there's this pacing of a conversation, and if you're not thinking about the big twist that's coming, you can just take your time and approach it in the way that it's meant to be approached.
Yes, exactly.
And is it something that you did improvise, or were all the steps of the story all set in your mind? Or because I know that there are some creators that just let their characters go live their life, and they just happen to go in a direction that you wouldn't expect.
I can't do that. I am very much. I like to have a roadmap.
You're a control freak.
No. So hopefully somewhere in between, and that the place I'm a control freak is, I want to know where the destination is, that endings give their stories meaning, and I want to build to a moment. But you can have a roadmap, and now I'm going to get from New York to California, but also the freedom to know, if we see some cool shit along the way, we're going to take a little side trip, and it might slow us down. It might speed up how we get there. But for sure, there were moments that, the first time I saw Niko draw Sam, one of our protagonists, it immediately it changed the way that I thought about him, and the way his comfortability in his own skin and his curiosity. It was like, this is I see him a little bit differently than I did before, and I'm gonna play to Niko's strengths, I hope, and give him something different than what I'd originally intended. So
and I guess it changes also the connection you had with the project, because you were able to see the reactions in real time. Nice. Publishing in Substack, you had a first feedback, because earlier you said when we do interviews like this, we have to think about something we did 3 years ago, and now it's in France, so we have to talk about it for the French market. Yes. But in this case, you actually were able to interact with people on a live, day-to-day basis, on
a direct way. So
Pride of Baghdad was very scary, because that was 2 years plus, and only our editor was the only other human being who saw it, and we're like, is anyone going to get this bizarre talking animal war story? And here, so you at least did have the comfort of knowing this first patient audience. They weren't revolting or saying it was just they also weren't ever correcting us or saying, we don't like this story. I think they know that Niko and I are pretty set in our ways, and that wouldn't go well, but they were just like, we're interested. We want to see where this goes next. And that was enough to keep us going.
So you didn't feel any pressure from having the feedbacks already immediately while the story was crafted?
No, I never care, because it is who's to say, the people who happen to be reading online digitally and are cool getting a few pages at once, are a very different audience from the people who love to read in print in one sitting. And it's like, you don't know what the education is, the taste level, the what baggage people are bringing. So no, criticism is always interesting. And people, when they hate my work, it makes me eat chocolate, but it never makes me change the story that my collaborators and I want to tell.
Do you pay attention to what the readers say?
Yes, but I've been in the business. Yeah, but
You said yes,
I've been
but
in
your
the-
face was just telling no. Not at all.
No. I
Sure,
mean,
sure,
I'm
yeah.
usually like most modest artists, we have some kind of imposter syndrome. Yeah. But mine is kind of mild, and I always fall back on my feet. And usually, I think I'm doing overall a nice job. Otherwise, probably much less readers will read my books. So I mean, I always try to keep an overall view of everything. When you start micromanaging, you're up for trouble and a lot of worries for nothing.
And if I'm still on the Substacks topic and we talked about the graphic content at the beginning, do you think that something like Spectateurs would have been made possible directly in print, knowing what's the direct market today?
You know, Image has been such a good partner for me. And when I'm not working Image, before I was doing Panel Syndicate with Marcos Martin, and we have no oversight other than our own skewed judgment on the world. So I think it would have been possible content-wise to do this. But I'm grateful that the Substack deal at the beginning was we were told truly we are a First Amendment company. We don't care what you say or do. Go to town. And I do think, though, after we started turning in pages, there was some sense behind the scenes of like, do you have to go this hard? Like, you know, we said anything, but we can't do pornography on our site. And I was always like, that's fine. The legal definition of the states in pornography involves no artistic merit. And I think the moment that this genius painter puts his brush to paper, whatever he is doing, whatever act is, it's no longer, it is immediately a work of art. It might not be art that you like, but to say that it's pornography is absurd. So it was nice to have a proof of concept of Substack, even if perhaps reluctantly sometimes they allowed us to do it. I think by the end, having a piece, it was easy for Image to say, like, of course, we'll publish this fully uncensored.
But you also felt maybe the need to like push the limits a little more than you previously could?
No, push limits only in that I was like, okay, I understand. What are the limits in violence? There are none. There are truly no limits in violence. You can hurt animals, children, anything in fiction. And so I was like, the sex, we knew it was always going to be consenting adults. And that beyond that is like, no, what can you possibly show or see at this point that someone can't click over on their phone 2 websites away and see the graphic reality much more so. So no, it was never to shock. It was just, let's just see and do this wholly natural thing that many of us have hopefully enjoyed to some capacity. Whereas, you know, we've written and drawn so many fight scenes in our careers, and I have never been in a fight. So why is there so much thinking about, the limits on sex and so little about the limits on violence?
I had a question for both of you also, because now you've been to Europe to tour for the book. Obviously, it's a conversation we've had with Guillaume actually this morning, when he said to me, I think Brian wouldn't have made this book if he was French, because we are not as easily shocked by big dicks and exploding heads. I'm sorry. What has been the reaction on both sides of the Atlantic, I guess, surrounding this specific issue of nudity and violence?
I can say, I met some people in New York, but the people we have that are coming to see us are mostly pleased with the book. So that's the thing. I think mostly it's people, they like it and they come see us, but the ones that don't like, we just really don't hear that much from them. I don't know about you, Brian, if you heard some shocked people.
No, I mean, obviously there have been people, but we just got back from Lucca, Italy, which is as culturally different from France as it is from the United States. But I think if we had just done a book that was a balls to the wall, shocking sex and violence, it wouldn't have played in France or the US or anywhere else. That if it works, it is because of characters, and people come up and they don't ask Niko to draw people fucking or heads exploding yet. They say, give me Val and give me Sam. And I think they're connected to it because by the end of the book, hopefully, I think they feel like, oh, I was a character in the book too. And that transcends sex and violence. So that might be what intrigued them at first, but if it works, it's because these people feel so real. And if that's true, it's because of Niko.
And last question, what would you do? What would you watch if you were turned into a ghost in your story? Would you also look for people having trouble sex, or would you look for something else?
Would you go to Alan Moore's house to see what he does of his day?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think in our world, the ghosts have the option to sort of punch out and decide, I don't want to watch anymore. And I think that would be me, that I'm a participant. And even though I love to watch, I don't want to be a part of a world that I can't have some impact on. But maybe I'd stick around for a week or so and see people in their most private, weird moments that, you know, I like reality TV, but I know that that's fake. This is all edited and people know they're performing for cameras. But what happens when people really close the door and they think they're most alone and they're clumsiest and most embarrassing? So I'd go watch you two guys for a bit, see what you get up to, but then I'm out.
Oh my, you would be in for a show.
I think I would pretty much do like Sam and go for space and see what's up there. And if there's an unlimited time, probably maybe reach some other galaxies and see what's happening.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Brian, Niko. It was really nice chatting with you about Spectators.
Thank you so
Merci
much.
beaucoup.
Merci.